Well, you're watching New Car Spin, and this is a Volvo. But which Volvo is it? Can you tell? Probably not, because, well, the interiors are pretty much all the same across the lineup. They all have the digital touchscreen, they all have the digital instrument cluster, and they all have really comfortable seats. I've contemplated whether I was going to do a video on this car, mainly because it's a loaner car, it's not mine, but if you give up, well, if you read the title, you know what it is. It's really windy out. I'm just going to do a quick walk around. This is a T5. As you can tell right there, it's a turbo 4-cylinder, not a 5-cylinder. And, yeah, it looks pretty good, I'd say. It's got the standard 18-inch wheels. You can get optional 19s. And these are Continental tires. And I would say that the steering is kind of big with these tires. Way too windy out there. Anyway, I want to do a quick road trip to Dallas. I'm here in Austin. Behind me is a fire truck because one of the trucks back there, an old Ford, sprung a leak on the fuel tank. So, let me go ahead and get my seatbelt on here, and then we will go on our journey. Alright, full tank. Let's go ahead and reset it. We push this in here, and there we go. That's been reset. Trip computer's been reset. Then we'll go in here. Driver performance. We'll go ahead and reset that. And now we can see our fuel economy. If I show you the window sticker, I like this more than an Audi A4, and I'll tell you why in a second. 23 city, 34 highway on fuel economy. And the sticker price, $39,740. That includes the optional premium package, which includes the power folding, not retractable, but they actually fold. If I push into here, boom, they go in, which is nice to have. You have to spend a lot of money on an Audi A4 to get that. HomeLink garage door transmitter, and the blind spot information, park assist, which is basically the camera and the parking sensors, and then a power trunk lid, of course, which means you can get your Amazon packages delivered to the car, I believe. Here's the best part. It's front-wheel drive, but it's 250 horsepower. Now, the Audi A4 Ultra, which is the lower model, I think it's called the 40 TFSI now, that's only 189 horsepower. And then if you got the full 2-liter A4, that's 248 horsepower. The bone stock S60 Momentum is 2 horsepower more than the higher level A4, and for 39 grand. So let's see what this is like on the road. Compared to the T6 model, the T6 is an all-wheel drive. This T5 is a front-wheel drive. And the only other difference is the T6 has 315 horsepower, which is, again, more than the Audi A4. And this is less horsepower and front-wheel drive. So if you wanted all-wheel drive, you get the T6. And then if you wanted even more power, you get the T8, which I personally own, and I'll show you later. The configuration in here is very bone stock because this is a Momentum. If you wanted higher bolstering on the seats or vented or massage seats, you get the R Design or the Inscription package. And then those include the leather stitched dash and other features. But you still get a power sunroof with a power shade, which will automatically close the shade on a hot day if you lock the vehicle. And you get power folding rear seats, and yeah, air vents for the rear are in the B-pillar. But I think it's time to get going here. Before I do know that you can get a SIM card in this car that gives you data, and with that data you can get navigation. This doesn't have the built-in nav. This has GPS, non-GPS nav. I don't know what they would do. Maybe dead reckoning or some kind of thing with the data. But if you were to use your phone hotspot, you can connect your phone hotspot to the vehicle, and you can see that right here, vehicle modem or the Wi-Fi. You can do all sorts of things with this nav system, or non-nav, whatever you want to call it. To that, you can actually even here you can get Pandora, Spotify. You can have apps on here that use the Wi-Fi or the connection from the SIM card to do everything you need, which is cool. Also, you'll see these are the settings on this screen. I can fold the headrests. I can do all sorts of stuff. On the T6 and T8s, I can do even more things. But this is important right here. The auto stop start. When you disable it, it stays disabled. Every time you get in the car, it remains the way it was before you got in. And even cooler than that are the drive modes. So I can put this thing into a drive mode. We'll go to, we'll go to Eco. And the car changes. The car automatically goes into coasting mode if possible. And you'll notice here the start-stop has been reactivated. However, it's smart enough to know that if you go back into comfort mode, which is every day, and the default when the car is started every time, you will see the engine's back on, and the start-stop feature has been disabled again. So the memory features of this car are very handy, and blows away anything Audi and Mercedes can do these days. So let's hit the road. We are at 0 miles. We've got about a 3-hour trip ahead of us. It's about 10 till 11 a.m. And electronic parking brake and auto brake hold, which is nice to have. We'll just cruise towards Dallas, and I'll tell you more about this Volvo S60. Personally, I like this bone stock setup. It's great for people who just want a solid commuter car, if they don't care about front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, or how much power. This is obviously a very good competitor to the Audis and the Mercedes models. Let's go ahead, and we're going to head the other direction on the freeway right now. So, with that being said, you can do things like upgrade the stereo. This is the standard stereo. It sounds great. I have done some modification to the equalizer to get it to sound the way I like it to sound. You basically don't have a sound setting menu here, which is weird compared to the Harman Kardon and Bowers & Wilkins system, but you do have the ability to change the sound here. So you've got tone, balance, but then you have an equalizer, and you can create your own custom equalizer, which I did here. And I'm pretty happy with that. But if you wanted to amp it up a little bit, pun intended, you could get a Harman Kardon system, which comes standard on a T8, and with the advanced package, I think, on the T6, you get the Harman Kardon system. But if you wanted to go even further, you can pay like $3,500, I think it is, for the optional Bowers & Wilkins system. And I've heard that that's phenomenal. I don't know. I'm not going to send any recommendations on that yet. I've heard it in an XC90, but I have not heard it in an S60. You would know you have Bowers & Wilkins because you'd have like a round tweeter here on the dash, which I didn't care for having to look at that. So let's go ahead and close this out. I don't have nav running, so what I'll do is I'll just put it back on driver performance, and you'll see, because we were sitting around, we were getting 0 MPGs, but we'll be sure to even that out pretty soon. Air conditioning is right here. You can set your temperature on the screen or via voice command. You can go right here. I'm hot.
Temperature set to 69 degrees.
And then there you go. I'm hot, and it goes down to 69. And you can have it, it's got auto recirc and a bunch of other stuff. Basically, it's a set it and forget it system. So all the complaints you've ever heard from automotive journalists about this Volvo Sensus system, they're pretty unfounded, because doesn't Tesla have that single screen too? A lot of manufacturers are now doing screens, especially Audi doing a split screen. All of the air conditioning controls are now on a touch screen, and even in the Jaguar, actually. So Volvo just decided we're going to do one screen, give you a pretty decent sized screen, and I love the fact that it's flanked by these nice large air vents, because here in Texas, when it gets hot, you're going to love those large air vents, both in the center and on the outboard sides here. Very large vents. Huge. Fantastic. As you can tell with the cabin noise on these Continental tires, These are not the optional 19-inch wheels that you can get on the R-Design or Inscription package. But here on the Momentum, bone stock, pretty decent. I do know that the Pirellis come on the higher trim models, and these Contis are okay. As far as the way it steers, being front-wheel drive, obviously, it's going to have... I wouldn't say it's going to have torque steer. There's no real torque steer going on here with only 250 horsepower. It's not as noticeable as it is in the T6, let's just say. The T6 with 315 horsepower or thereabouts has a little bit more noticeable torque steering feel, not torque steer fear, although there is that. Relatively speaking, though, to go in a straight line, I mean, there is a lot of, I wouldn't say numbness, it's just, or vague, I would just say it's very subdued, and that might be due to the size of the wheels. I'm sure if you were to get the 19-inch wheels, you would have a little bit more responsiveness out of that steering. But it goes straight, it rides straight, it's a pretty impressive ride quality, because it's so smooth. If you were to look at the Audi A4 and then drive this back to back, I think with these larger seats, you can tell by all the room I have in here, and the fact that the seats are actually wider than my ass, which is hard to find in a lot of vehicles these days, the Volvo really is setting the bar higher. And with the premium package, we have auto-dimming exterior rearview mirrors, which are only really capable of being optioned on the prestige Audis, even on the A4 level. So, actually, even on the A6. So I'm just going to keep driving here, and I'll just keep telling you all about the differences between the Audi A4 and the Volvo S60, doing the best I can at least. They do share some kind of similarity in how some of the items operate, and that is with the blind spot monitoring. In some cars, they only turn on when there's someone in your blind spot, but here in the Volvo, just like the Audi, they'll turn on if someone is approaching you quickly, so you know not to pull out too soon. Anyway, obviously there's some traffic today. It's May 2nd. The state has opened back up, and I am doing very well. Thank you very much. I do have a bit of allergies going on. Look at that up there on the overpass. That was a big load. That's one of those windmill things. And there's a cone. Alright. It's never a dull day in Texas. And some of you, I just want to address this right away. Some of you may go, hey, why do you hold your phone when you're using it as a camera and drive? And I'll tell you that. I used to mount GoPros here on the windshield, you know, on all the vehicles I drive, and sometimes even up on the glass here for the sunroof, and even on the passenger window there. And the main reason for it is because if you're into an accident, what'll happen is the airbags go off, and the airbags are structured inside the A-pillar and go across the roof line, and some of them are curtains and everything. And my fear is that if you do get into an accident, whether it's under control or not, is those airbags are going to go off, and the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to shear off the camera or push it with so much force, it's going to be a projection. So you're going to have a projectile, not one, not two, maybe three, maybe four. And I think that is very unsafe. You talk about the airbag recalls and things like that because of shrapnel. Well, why don't you consider having some GoPros mounted to some glass and something out of your control happening right in front of your eyes in slow motion, and the next thing you know is you've got 4 GoPros stuck in your head. I don't have any hair product in my arsenal today, so I'm kind of going a little bare on my hair. But I'm mentioning this because the GoPro is what was strapped to Michael Schumacher's head when he was skiing and fell. And when he fell, he ended up in a coma. And I think that we need to reassess the viability of GoPro, not only on their stock price, but why do we need a camera at every angle when I can give you the real experience as if you're riding with me like this, simply by holding the steering wheel with my knee and talking with my hand and holding a camera. But that's a moot point, really, because people learn by their mistakes. People learn by experiencing things. And this is Austin, by the way, downtown Austin, Texas. And I think it's important to know that you can learn from others' mistakes as well. And on this road trip, we're not going to make mistakes. We've done plenty of road trips. We're going to enjoy the trip. And I'm going to show you a lovely day here in Texas. If you're all quarantined or whatever you want to call it, sequestered or whatever, I feel bad for you. And I hope one day you will be able to see the light and move on with life. But here in Texas, we are enjoying a very bright sunny day. And we are moving on with life. And I think, as you can tell, even with the current situation with oil prices, we must go on. And that's kind of what's going on here. I have a loaner car because my T8 is in for a window tint, and I happened to actually get a crack in my windshield when I was over in Fort Worthless. Some random stone, unfortunately, hit my windshield and cracked it. I'm not sure what kind of stone it was, but had to get a new windshield already. But here we are in the T5, and I'm not saying it's slow. It's definitely not lacking for power, but it's definitely not as ambitious or has the same gusto as the T6 or even the T8. But cruising along, if this was just a commute right now, it's a decent car. And you can option it out with the radar cruise. I do not have that in this vehicle, but if you did get radar cruise, you would have the adaptive driving assistant, so it would follow the vehicle in front of you and then learn to stay in the lanes. Although we do have lane departure mitigation, which would mean if you got close to outside of your lane, it would pull you back in and vibrate the steering wheel and do all that. And there's a lot of features that this car has that are definitely options on the Audi A4. So I've got more room, more comfort, more power, more features, more tech than the Audi A4 right out of the gate in a base model. And that's sort of why I'm doing this video. Pretty much, I wouldn't say a convert, but I've had several Audis in my past, and now I'm on to Volvo, and it's weird. I never thought I would be. And I actually bought an S60 T8 without ever actually driving one. I've never driven a T8. If you look at my channel, you'll see a red S60. That's the first Volvo I've ever driven, and it's the first S60 I've driven, and it was fantastic. Now, the difference between the T6 and the T5, the T8 even, they all have the same engine. It's just that the T6 and the T8 also have a supercharger. So they're supercharged and turbocharged, whereas this is just turbocharged. Still, though, it puts out power, and here we are in comfort mode. If I put it into Eco, we'll go up there. Now you'll see the tachometer changes, and then if I take my foot off the accelerator, it says coasting. So it goes into sort of a neutral mode, and it can just drive along. I wouldn't say not consuming fuel, but it drives along consuming as little fuel as possible in coast mode. And if I put my foot down, I mean, just one gear change, my foot's not all the way down though. It will actually supersede Eco mode if you put your foot all the way down like this. There you go. A little bit of a delay for that, but in Eco mode, it's acceptable, plausibly acceptable. And then if we go into dynamic mode, I'll show you that later as the freeway opens up. But for all intensive purposes, we're behind a liquid copper QX30. Now we're behind a Ford shitbox. Basically, it should be a pretty chill day. It's a Saturday, and traffic should be pretty light, given that no one's got anything to do. And I just want to give you this road trip experience in the S60 T5, and then I'll do a road trip possibly in my S60 T8, and we can compare the differences. And if you're on the fence about whether you should get an A4 or an S60, hopefully this will help you decide and define which one is the best for you. Again, if you don't care about front-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive, or maybe you just don't live in a condition like a hospitable environment or a snowy place, and you don't need all-wheel drive, and maybe your budget dictates that you'd have to have front-wheel drive, whether it's an Audi or a Volvo. A Mercedes C-Class wouldn't be a part of that, because the C-Class is rear-wheel drive. But again, I'm doing this for you. So if you appreciate it, like, subscribe, comment, hit the bell, see what happens. Alright, so here we are in eco mode, and if you didn't notice, we are averaging 30.7 now, and I'm sure that'll keep rising as I stay here in coast mode as we go down this hill. It's harder and harder these days to get a shot of the road and the speedometer, but I'm doing the best I can here. I'm not actually looking through my camera as I shoot this. I look straight ahead at the road, and I guess as to what the camera's got in shot. So just keep that in mind. You're looking at what the camera sees. I'm looking ahead of the camera. Alright, I knew it. I don't know what it is about people who just seem to have nobody in front of them, or don't want anyone passing them. We don't have much of that going on today, but thankfully people are moving along. Like, it's really frustrating when you've got three aside and no one's going anywhere, and it's wide open in front of them. So what we'll do is we'll go down here into dynamic mode. And now it drops a gear, and it's definitely closer towards maximum action on that turbo there. And if I put my foot down, it definitely changes gears quicker, and we have passing power. And then if we look at the fuel economy, we're still at 30.7. I'm sure that's going to change throughout the day here, or in the next 3 hours at least. What else can I talk to you about? I need my coffee. I got some good coffee here. I think on the T6, or maybe even on the R Design, the steering wheel controls are all the same, but these are glossy rather than flat. And it's essentially an amazing car because, if I didn't tell you, you probably wouldn't know this, the S60 sedan is built in South Carolina. All trim levels. And they are, they're kicking ass over there in South Carolina. I have two vehicles, personally now, that are built in South Carolina. Or one was built, they don't make it anymore. But still, the S60 is a good-looking car. It's made in the U.S., so you don't have to wait long to get one. And the price is very competitive from what I've looked at, which is why I got one. And let's see. I think what I'll do is show you a passing power thing here. I'm sure he's going to move over, yeah. I don't want to pass on the right. What else can I talk to you about right here? It's uphill, but let's go for it. That's 84 or 85, something like that. Anyway, decent car for commuting and more powerful than any of the four-cylinder Audi A4s, which is remarkable. Let's go back into standard mode here. Comfort. And I just noticed, too, the fuel economy said something like 31.2. 30.7. So, oh, there it is, 31.2. So it's constantly calculating, and I don't know what the interval is set to. Let's see. Every 1 minute, let's go 10 minutes. Or is that miles? Minutes or miles? I don't know. Probably miles, because it's at 100. There we go. And yeah, I'll catch up with you. For now, I'm just going to hit the road and listen to some tunes, and when I come across something else decent worth talking about, I'll come back. Okay, I've had a few minutes to think about it, and yeah, I forgot to mention the Toyota Camry Xle 4-cylinder is something that I said I'd rather have over an Audi A4. And I guess you would be looking at this as well, in addition to that Camry or the Audi A4. I think if you drove all three, you'd find out that the Camry is the largest, and maybe not necessarily the most likely of your commuter choices, unless you're on a tight budget. The Camry actually does have the same kind of features in here, the power sunshade and the larger seats than the Audi, and a better ride than the Audi, ironically. And we're talking about the 2020 Audi A4, not the incoming new design that's not here yet. So just keep that in mind. I'm talking about today, right now, what you can go to the dealer and buy, or lease, or whatever. New vehicles, not used either. So you got to remember, this is new car spin. I put the spin on new cars, not 2-year-old vehicles, or we're not going to talk about reliability. Because again, my whole thing is, if it's so damn reliable, why buy a new one? This is not the channel for you if you're looking for new vehicles or used vehicles. Like, if you don't know which one you want, this is for new car buyers. Now, if this video is a couple years old and you're like, wow, what was that car like when it was new? Well, I'm doing my best here to show you what the 2020 Volvo S60 T5 is like, brand new. Maybe 10 years from now, this video is still on YouTube. I don't know. If it is, give it a thumbs up. Or whatever the new icon is of that time, or donate or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, but this is for you. Anyway, you can see we're at 34.1 mpgs, and I've put it back in eco mode. You'll see right there it says eco drive, and the tachometer has changed again. One thing it does do, though, is in eco mode, it puts the AC in eco, and what that does is it turns down the air conditioning compressor, and even at 71 degrees in here, it's still kind of warm and a little bit more damp or humid. So if I change that temperature down to 69, we'll see if I feel a little bit better while staying in this eco mode. But you can see the average of 34.6 is better than the window sticker is saying so far, and we're pegged at cruise control at 72 miles an hour. The speed limit is 70, but it's going to go to 75 pretty soon. Also, on my T8, I have heads-up display, whereas here in the Momentum, in the basic version, we do not. So keep in mind, like, you want more features in your S60, then you just have to get the Momentum, upgrade from Momentum to either R Design or Inscription. And those are the two trim levels that give you, like, Inscription is more luxury car, R Design is more sporty from that perspective. And in that's I think you can get an R Design T5. So it's not like you have to get a T6 to get a what was I going to say? You don't have to get a T6 to get an Inscription model. You can get the Inscription T5, which is front-wheel drive. So you have more options as well with Volvo than you do with Audi. Because I don't think you can get a Prestige Audi Ultra, which is their only front-wheel drive version. At some point, the speed limit will increase to 75. I'm not sure when. But, yeah, there we go. Onwards. Alright, so it's been a couple minutes and I had the temperature down to 69. We're still in eco mode and I had to vent the sunroof and that hasn't been enough. So what I'm going to do is put that back into comfort mode and let the AC do its thing. I really think that eco mode is not ideal in the summer, let's just say, or at least in Texas. My fuel economy is at 35.8, and you might be wondering, hey, what's this button here? Well, if I press that, I get a menu in there, and that menu allows me to see the trip computer, and from the trip computer, I can see average fuel economy, the trip time, and then I can go down, and I can see the trip and the since the start, so the trip averages. And then some really cool stuff is I can disable whether or not I want to see the odometer or the range left on the tank. I can also change the speedometer and everything to kilometers if I was in Canada or something. And then I can also show, I think, gallons per hour or miles per gallon, or the trip average, or the since the start. And then, oh, I guess I can't do gallons per hour. Oh well. But you can configure, like, if you want to see any of this stuff down here, or if you want to see any additional information, or just get rid of it completely and just have no info and just go on gauges. It's interesting. I've never seen such, like, versatility for whether you want the average or since start time. And you still have, you know, a separate computer over here that just shows the averages of the fuel economy. On the hybrid version, which I'll show you in another video when I drive the T8, there's similarities and there's also some differences actually. So here we go, cruising along, 75 miles an hour now, new speed limit, and on our way. I'm sure I'll catch up with you by the time I get to Waco. I'm going to actually get off right here because there's something I need to do. I need to get the charging cable for my phone so that I can show you why this is a pretty cool vehicle for doing something like this, a road trip through Texas. So we're going to come up to our spot here, park. I can get out, grab my charging cable from the trunk, and then we will commence with the knowledge transfer. We'll just go to the other side here because I don't need to be around a bunch of people. I just want to be on my own, COVID free. All right, let's do this. All right, pull up the parking brake. I'll leave the car running. Go to the trunk. By the way, the name of this color is called Pebble. It's dark, it's light, it's all sorts of different stuff. And here you go. Plus you can lock and close. It's not a powered trunk though. Downside to that. Although it is a powered trunk if you get the wagon version, which is the same platform, same size. All very confusing. Basically though, you get the sedan or the wagon flavor. Alright, so we have like Android Auto, Apple CarPlay if we plug into the white one, and then there's a second USB port there, which gives me power, which is all I want. I don't like using Android Auto. Plus we have a channel here we can route our cables through. Boom. Let's plug it in here for the charge. There we go. Now, I have more power. Okay. This is the momentum trim, so this texture is pretty extreme. In the other ones, you get like a smoother leather. So, boom. Let's go back to fuel economy. 36.9. We're sitting here idling. I should probably get a move on it. Oh, whoops. I actually left it in drive as I got out of the car. Whoa, that's the first time I've ever done that. That's what parking brakes are for. Anyway, 36.9 is the average. That's going to drop as we sit here, but I want to show you. You'll see here it says chill tracks. I was doing some streaming through my phone, Pandora, over Bluetooth to the system. But then I thought, I'll turn on my hotspot on the phone and then connect the car to it. So to do that, you just go here. You go to communication, and then you turn on vehicle modem internet, and then you go to Wi-Fi, which says connect vehicle to mobile hotspot. And then you select the phone. So here we have Texas rest area free Wi-Fi. So Texas rest areas have free Wi-Fi as well. You can connect to it, and then you have the internet in your car. And what that does is that gives you a few things. Here, I now have navigation, which is pretty cool. This is a different navigation from the built-in navigation on the Momentum and Inscriptions with the advanced package. This is a different map. This is like a Google map, I think. I can't, let's see, maybe I can. Yeah, there we go. I can't really use two-finger zoom and all that, but still, it's not a bad map to be looking at. And I don't know what that icon is. Oh, probably destinations. So, we'll skip past that for a second. What I do have, though, which is great for road trips, Spotify, TuneIn, and Pandora. So right now I'm using TuneIn, and that will pull in all the internet radio stations, and then you can choose which one you want. So here I'm on Chill Tracks, and I can favorite that song or that channel, and then if I go to library, we can go through like all the different like Deep House and all this other stuff, Deep In Radio from Greece, like we can Czech Republic, we can get some really cool electronica going on, or we can go to different genres, or we can get local radio sports, like that's a thing anymore. So you can choose all the different internet stations, and then of course when you favorite it, it becomes a favorite and you can just easily get to it, or you can do a search for a radio station, which is pretty cool. And then you have recent. Obviously, I've been trying out different stations, but on a road trip like this, you can Wi-Fi hotspot your car to your phone, or you can get the SIM card of data in your car, specifically for your car, and you have these apps, and you can just chill out to music of your choice on your trip. And of course, we do have Pandora, but in this case, I'm going to use better sound choices. Also, you have in settings, you can go for normal, high, and extreme audio quality as well. And that's pretty easy. I didn't even sign in and it works. You have to sign into Pandora and Spotify on the Volvo apps. But here on TuneIn, you don't. So cool stuff. Very cool stuff. Let's go ahead and play that music from that station, Chill Tracks. And our fuel economy has dropped to 36.4. So let's hit the road. Put it in reverse, take the parking brake off. Nice high-def backup camera. We do have 360 available on the advanced package option, which is standard on the T8, available on the R Design Momentum and Inscription. Our mirror is reversed down too, when we or tilt down in reverse, and you can set that in the configuration too of the system. But for now, let's hit the road. So you look around and it's like, wow, it looks really nice in Texas, and you're right, it does. We have the blue bonnets that come out and stuff, and the wildflowers look great, and the sun's bright, and the sky is big, and it's got some pretty cool clouds and stuff. May is a great time to take a road trip through Texas, and I think though this year it might be a little drier than normal. We haven't had that much rain compared to the last couple of years. But this is my blind spot. Already alerted me to that. Anyway, it's a great time to take a road trip, and now that I think flying will be a little bit more difficult for a lot of people, if you do take road trips, May, Texas, great combination. Fabulous. Yep, we're almost in Waco, and I'll update you shortly. It's so weird to go from a car that has radar cruise to a car that doesn't, although you can turn off radar in the radar enabled cars. Kind of hard to explain, but when you don't have radar, you just kind of go through your normal day like this. Alright, coming up on Waco, there's a lot of construction coming up. Not much I can do, but light traffic will help with this. I guess the only benefit of this part of the report on the Volvo S60, is to show you what Waco, if you're watching this in the future, which is now, for you, your present, which would be my present now, your past, Christopher Walken would say, this is what Waco looked like on May 2nd, 2020, with this construction and these little buildings on the side of the freeway and those big piles of dirt up there. So I don't know when you're looking at this now, but this is what Waco looked like now, which is your then. Now. This Volvo handles this rough road pretty well, actually. Some of those moments are a bit butt clenching, but you just go, oh, look at that, just took it just like normal. I think the A4 would have been a little bit more purposefully hitting those bumps. From my Audi experience, Audis definitely don't ride as smoothly as the Volvo, or as, I would say, like, I don't want to say cushiony, but insulated. I think this Volvo feels a lot more insulated. I muted the tunes. That's right here. You can mute the tunes by pushing this center button. It also, that center button acknowledges some of the warnings that show up on that screen. And then you can go back and forth to like accept or reject the call. You can go back and forth to that. But when you listen to the tunes, this is the next, that's backtrack. And then do you know what these up and down arrows do? They control volume. So a lot of people will get in the car and they think, oh, that's up and down for the music. No, that's volume. And then some people complain that feels weird. But once you get used to it, it makes total sense. It's funny how that happens. Sometimes I feel like I need to scroll, like in the Mercedes with the touchpads. But that's not a touchpad. I mean, it's interesting to see how the different manufacturers pull out different technology out of their hats. And it's about as entertaining as watching how people drive when the lanes get narrow. Something you'll discover in an S60 is actually how kind of like safe this feels. It doesn't feel nerve-wracking or anything. I'm just going about my trip here. I don't feel like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, he's in my lane, he's hitting the brakes, they're going too fast. I just feel like, hey, we're moving along. Not scary at all. In fact, kind of tired. There's Collins Street Bakery. I guess they're really known for their fruitcakes. That reminds me, I need to get a fruitcake for somebody's birthday. Wow, it handled that just nicely too. I think this is the last HEB before Dallas. I'm not too sure. But to me it seems like if you need your HEB fill, that's where you would get it. All right. Handled that pretty well too. Not sure where that rattle came from, but I do have my plastic humidor case there, and it does have a lighter and a cutter in there, and it does vibrate from time to time. Normally I put it in the trunk, but for some reason I left it up here. Oh yeah, 37.5 mpgs is the mileage check. Obviously, regular cruise was at 80 miles an hour. We've been cruising at 80 for a while. Terrible road. Sounds terrible, but the ride is completely smooth. I think it's just the way the tires hit the chunks of the pavement. Alright, I'm going to resume cruise control here at 72. All you do is hit the center button, that sets it. And then if you see there's a little red line in there, that little red line is the actual speed limit sign that matches down there. And the gold line is where you have your cruise control set to. It's quite interesting. It's very similar to how Mazda does it. Although Mazda would do a red line past the speed limit rather than just do a red line to mark the limit. But you learn something new every day, you know. The lane keeping assist, or the road departure mitigation, whatever one you want to call it, it does a good job, especially through that construction zone. It's not pulling up lanes that don't exist. It's not making up stuff along the way. Some cars kind of go, oh, we need to do this. And it's picking up like sandblasted marks and things like that. Some cars pick up weird things on the road that don't exist. And one thing I noticed too is it doesn't tend to wander off the road too at off ramps like this. When I'm in the right lane, it doesn't go, oh, we're exiting. It just stays straight as much as it can. It's good to know. All right, speed's picking up, and I'll resume. Well, probably as we get closer to Dallas. 115 miles so far. That trip computer average says 37.8 mpgs. Right in there. That's the one that we reset from here. And then this one, 37.5, is from when we reset it along the way a little bit, I guess. I don't know why they're a little off, but look at how much fuel we still have. I mean, this thing is sipping fuel, and I'm not sure how big the fuel tank is in this one, but I know in my T8, which is the hybrid, it has only 15 gallons of fuel capacity. The tank is much smaller because it's got to make up for all the space it needs for the batteries and the electric motor in the rear. So the gas tank in the T5 and T6 is larger, and you will get a better range probably on the highway on the T5 than you would on the T8. Although the T8's a hybrid, it is heavier, but I think the T8 does better in the city than the T5 does. But my next road trip video in my T8 will define that. And we're really, let me set it up to 75. We're really going to use cruise control on that next trip too. It's kind of painful to do for me, but this day and age, I think with the way things are going economically, I'd rather do the speed limit than get to my destination sooner than later. So doing the speed limit is the best way to do this kind of gauge. Although I'm not intending to follow that truck. I'm not doing any hypermiling. I have not adjusted the tire pressure. I have not tailgated trucks. I have not done anything stupid as far as the hypermiling goes. I've just been setting cruise, passing once in a while, and letting the car do all the work. Because after a 3-hour drive, you don't want to arrive fatigued. You want to arrive. So to do that, you let the car do all the work. And a good road trip car does things for you. Like radar cruise would be great as an option on this car, but it's unavailable. It just doesn't have it here. And then the lane keep assist does a great job too, especially in the crosswinds, which we are getting today if you pay attention to this grass. Also, you'll notice we do not have heated seats. Heated seats are an option, and they are standard, I believe, on the T6 and T8. They would show right here. You'd press that and you'd see a heated seat. In the T5 inscription, T6 inscription, T8 inscription, I think you can get optional venting on the seats as well as massage, and that's all through that little icon there too, the little seat icon. But since this does not have heated seats in the front or the rear, you don't get it. Also, though, if you were to get heated seats, you could get heated seats in the rear on the S60 on some trims, obviously. Alright, I don't like passing trucks on the right, but here we go. Normal mode, put my foot down. 86, 89, 90. So yeah, it scoots. Go left a little bit. And this is the base version too, front wheel drive. So keep in mind, you're going to have to watch my red S60 T6 video. That's where I drove it from a dealer. I don't do those anymore for Volvo, but get that in your head and out of my system as far as what that car can do. Because passing power in the T6 is much more noticeable. This one isn't bad. I bet you it's better than the A440 TFSI or the Ultra. I don't have a way to compare it right now. One day I'll try and get a hold of myself that A4. I'm waiting for the new A4, the 2021. It might also be a 2022. So cancel driver override. That was the cruise control, and that's because I've been keeping my foot down on the accelerator to pass all those cars. So to resume cruise, you just hit this button here, and it goes back, and now it slows the car down a little bit, brings us down to 75 again. You see in my frameless mirror there. Nobody's in the rear, nobody's around. But yep, there we go. Alright, we are definitely out of the town and into the country again. When I get closer to Dallas, we'll see what's what. 37.5 MGs. Well, interestingly, 38.1 is our average now, and there it says 37.8. And I think what's happening is that's real time over here, 37.8. And that number there is over every 10 miles, right? So it's averaging it out based on increments. And it's just averaging the increments, which is an interesting way to look at it. So I don't know if that's more thorough or if that's more predictive than the total time. Anyway, we are still heading towards Dallas, and this has been one hell of a road trip. It's comfortable, and I'm not fatigued, I'm not tired. I'm just wishing, one thing I would say is these seats are sort of they're not very venting. They don't, basically on a warm day like today, I feel warm in the seats. I wish they had some ventilation or some breathability to them. My T8 has different seats. Maybe that's a different thing to talk about later. We will continue onward, and I think I have about an hour of driving left till I get to where I need to go. And these are some depressing outlets, Derek, this is for you. Derek from There Will Be Cars loves this area, mainly because it's so hopeless and it's thought-provoking. I don't know. Those aren't his exact words. Alright, this is interesting. Never mind. Plenty of room. Okay. So, farm equipment. We're almost at I-35 East North. And we're going to take that over to downtown Dallas. And there's our fuel economy, 38.1 there, 37.8 here. I don't know what's what. But we still have 3/4 of a tank. We're definitely going to make it before half a tank. And this will be interesting to see the difference between the T5 and my T8. I can't do a T6 road trip because I can't get my hands on one. But for now, this is as good as it gets, right? I would appreciate you liking this video and leaving a comment and watching some other ones. And I endure your support. And I do it by not asking for any donations through Patreon. I have a Patreon account, but it's only there so that no one can fake my identity on Patreon. So I do not need donations. I'm fine just with the way YouTube is as it is. Sometimes the months are great, sometimes they're not. But that's beyond the point. This is basically what I do for you. So if you really do appreciate it, I appreciate your support by watching more of my videos. That's really all it takes. And yep, here's Texas for you. For those of you who probably haven't been on a road trip through Texas, this is what you're missing. Or this is what you can look forward to. How about that? All right. Don't want this to end. Money's getting closer. 38.1 MPGs, and if we look here, 38. Oh, there you go. 38.5 trip average. And look at that. We're at 3/4 of a tank just. So we did 169.4 miles on a quarter tank, and it's estimating 450 left range on the rest of the fuel, which is about accurate. And 38.5. I mean, this is really pushing territory of some of the older diesels that I've driven back in the day, like 12 years ago on my other channel called Diesel Drives. To get this kind of range on a tank is incredible. It means I can go from Dallas or Austin to El Paso on a single tank and still have enough fuel to drive around town. And have a safety net just in case as well. Like in case you get like a flat tire, you can pull over, keep the air running in the summer, and change the tire and go. Like you do need a reserve. You need a cushion of fuel to stay comfortable and safe. So that's remarkable. We are closer and closer to Dallas. We're getting there. Let me turn off cruise for a second, change lanes, confirm everything's clear, move over. Let's see. We're about 30 minutes from a view of downtown. Don't quote me on that, though. Probably around 1:45. And I'll catch up with you there. Obviously, fuel economy is doing great. I've been using the cruise control most of the time. I've been passing. And I haven't been hypermiling or anything. So I can only imagine what hypermilers could get out of this car. I am not that kind of person. Fuel prices right now in Texas are definitely low. Although I do want to point out that on this car, because it's a turbo, and especially on the T6 and T8s, because they're supercharged and turbocharged, you need to use premium fuel. So here in Texas, it's about $2.29 a gallon. Or lower. So keep that in mind. And it's only bound to go up, right? So just be cognizant of that. if you plan on buying a S60, even the Audi A4, I believe, requires premium fuel. The only Audi I had that didn't require premium fuel was the A3, and that's still a great car. I like that. As far as small sedans go, I would still consider an A3 if I was looking for a sedan to commute with. If I want a big room, the Camry A4 S60 range, that's different. It's also all, funny enough, in the same price point of like $40,000. So, all right, we're going to continue with the drive, and as we get closer to Dallas, I'll wrap it up there. All right, time for dynamic mode. You can also press down this and press on the screen, but while my hands are down there, I'm just going to go for that. Here's downtown Dallas, and now I'm in dynamic mode, still 38.5 mpgs there, and then let's close out the climate for a second, because I had it on recirc, 38.1 here. Dallas. Alright, well, we made it, and this is where I'm going to end it. So thank you for watching. More videos on the way, obviously, and hope you're doing well. I appreciate your time, and I hope this helps you a lot, and let me know what you think. And yeah, it's good to be home. Although I'm originally from Los Angeles, I do live in Dallas now, and this is a fantastic place for me. Alright. Great fuel economy. Oh, now it says 38.6. So the average must be increasing over 10-mile increments. Let's get off here. You gotta act quick in Dallas on these freeways. What else? No real complaints other than, and it's a design thing, like when my hands are here, sometimes my paw fat fingers this corner, which doesn't do anything on this car because it doesn't have radar cruise, so this button and this button don't do anything. But this button selects the next track, and that can be an issue. So you just have to pay attention to that. Other than that, no real complaint. Let's see. Great seats, no fatigue, and not really looking forward to the vehicle I got to drive after this, which is a Lexus RX 450 LH or HL. But I'll be driving that this weekend. In the meantime, let's get around this guy. See, you can also Polestar tune any 2015 or newer Volvo, I believe. So this, there's the Perot Museum. This T5 can actually be had with 265 horsepower, I think, if you Polestar tuned it. And that tune is basically from the dealer, and it's actually a warranty item, so you don't void your warranty when you tune your car with Polestar. Something to consider too, especially if you're looking at this car in 2025, or you're watching this video in 2030. Thank you again. Pretty cool, and a lovely day on top of that. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything's great. See you in the next video.